Yes, hello, my friend. I am Charlie Simons, talking about two things you're never supposed to talk about: religion and politics. One decides what life is going to be like here on earth, the other one decides what it's going to be like when you leave it. Makes it kind of important. You can catch me at rumble.com/DoNotTalk. And if you follow that channel, you'll be helping us grow that way. If you're not on Rumble yet, please, I implore you to go there. Stop relying on YouTube for giving you information. They haven't been for a long time. And the conservatives that are on there, the true conservatives, have left. They've left. Dan Bongino comes to mind. Also, Russell Brand is another one. There's many of them who have said, forget YouTube, because you have to use a special little code language. You can't just speak honestly and openly like so many of us want to do and long to do, because they'll pull you off. Make more money on YouTube just because they're bigger. So you do get paid well. Some people are making a lot of money doing their little code language. Well, I'm an idiot that way. I don't like the left dictating the English language to me, so I don't even care. So if you go to Rumble and encourage other conservatives, because I'm surprised at how many are like, Rumble, what's that? Really? It's the only of its size, and even still it's dwarfed by YouTube, but it's the only platform that still is telling conservatives and anyone really, nope, you can speak openly and honestly here. We're not going to patrol what you do and what your content is, unless it's incredibly dangerous or something. But no, it's been a tremendous blessing, and it'll only grow if we actually support it, because the left won't. They won't even talk about Rumble. So if you go to rumble.com/DoNotTalk, or if you're already watching on there, please follow this channel. It helps tremendously. And hit that little like button and share. If you comment during the shows too, that also helps. It all has to do with that whole algorithm thing. So rumble.com/DoNotTalk. And I sure do appreciate the support there. And we all do on the right. If we can get behind that and actually support it. I don't make any money off of telling you this. I'm not endorsing any one thing other than I'm just telling you exactly how it is. Speaking of telling you exactly how it is, two great gentlemen, as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly what they do. They tell you exactly how it is. One is running for the governor of the state of California, Leo Zaki. Extraordinary dude. You're going to love him. If you haven't seen him before, he just spoke at CPAC, as a matter of fact. He was one of the guest speakers up there. And the other one is Sam Anthony from yournews.com. Talk about a free speech platform. It's incredibly refreshing. I'll let them tell you more about it. But what we're going to talk about today is, how do conservatives fight against a mainstream media that is doing everything it can to shut you up and shut you down? Dan Bongino can tell you stories. Look what they did with that company that he was a part of trying to start up. It was going to be a response or an answer to Twitter. This before Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it to X. But Dan Bongino started this company called Parler, and it was a free speech platform. Look what they did to destroy it successfully. That's the real scary part. How do we as conservatives fight against a media that is owned and operated by the devil himself? That's what we're going to talk about today. And Dan Bongino recently had on a former reporter for the CBS radio and television network. Catherine is well, that's what this is about. And before I get to Leo and Sam, I wanted you to see a fine example of what I'm talking about with the mainstream media.
Here is conclusive evidence, again, of exactly how the media cordons off the truth. So if you're a left-wing moron, you never get the other side of the story. Here's the great Catherine Herridge. She's on News Nation. She's an actual reporter. Don't know her politics. Don't give a damn. Here she is on News Nation talking about how she scored this huge interview with Elon Musk when the Twitter files came out, talking about all the censorship on Twitter. Remember when the files dropped? I was in those. So sensitive topic to me. She scores a huge interview. You would think CBS would be all over this. Oh, no. She says here CBS turned it down because they were unsure what Elon Musk was going to say. Oh, no, that's not it. I get what she's doing there, but that's not it at all. They were afraid Elon Musk would tell the truth. And if you're going to gaslight people into believing bullshit, then you can't ever have the truth get out there. Check this out.
Yeah, so just to set the stage, it was the fall of 2023. I had tried to enterprise a story that would bring the Twitter files to CBS News. It didn't get as far as I had hoped, but an interview opportunity developed with Elon Musk, and the offer was to do a live interview with him on X. So I took that opportunity to the CBS News executives. And they said, we just can't do it live. And I was like, what do you mean we can't do it live? And they said, well, we don't know what he's going to say. And I was like, wait a second. Isn't that what journalism is all about?
They don't care that you will never be exposed to the alternate truth because the lie works for them. Follow the money. What do you mean follow the money? These media entities now at the New York Times and Washington Post, MSNBC and CNN, they're telling people a story, not this story. Why? Because a story appeals to them. Republicans are evil, fascist, Nazis. That's it. They can't accept that they're the bad guy. They can't. That they supported left-wing Twitter before Elon bought it and that it actively engaged in fascist-style censorship. They can't accept it. So they just don't want to know the truth. They can't accept it. The black men are being hunted by cops narrative. There is money in telling people it's not the Democrats running these cities into the ground and destroying the lives of black men and women in these cities run by Democrats. It's the evil white man who supports the cop. That none of that's true doesn't matter. They don't want the truth at all. And either do the swampy Republicans.
All right, I'll tell you what. Let's find out what it's really like when you're in the trenches. Starting off with Leo Zaki. Hello, buddy. Congratulations on being a guest speaker at CPAC. That's pretty huge.
Yeah, it was, and I appreciate that, Charlie. Thanks.
What was it like? How many people were there? Just run us through it. I've never been to a CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's the conservative conference to go to. Everybody's there. Anybody who's anybody in the conservative movement is there. We had Jan Sixers there. We had world leaders there. Nigel Farage was there. I actually followed out Liz Truss and Eduardo Bolsonaro and then me. Elon Musk came on the stage later that day. Donald Trump spoke on the stage. J.D. Vance spoke on the stage. Sebastian Gorka, Dr. Robert Malone. The list goes on and on and on. And as you walk through the media row area, I mean, you never know who you're going to bump into or cross paths with. And everybody there is trying to do something to push the conservative movement forward, not just here in America, but around the world. And that's really the beauty of CPAC, is that everybody comes together and they do it here in America. This is the big one of them all. They have CPAC internationally. They have it in Korea, Japan, Hungary, and Mexico, and they're keep growing them out because this conservative movement that is being silenced by the leftist media is a worldwide phenomenon.
You do a radio show every day. You're on at 12 noon Pacific time on the Salem Media Group network, Salem Radio Network, and that has been I'd imagine eye-opening for you. You're with Salem, which calls themselves a conservative broadcast entity, and thank God for them. They have a great lineup of talk show hosts over there, including Larry Elder, Dennis Prager, just Charlie Kirk is on there. But it's a dying entity, but I don't know how much it's dying when George Soros turns around and buys 200 radio stations, most of them Spanish language. And everybody's saying radio's dead. Well, then why would George Soros buy 200 stations all across the country and slip past the FCC to get it done? Because that was very unprecedented to be able to buy so many stations like that in one fell swoop. But we could ask Sam Anthony about that from yournews.com. Hello, buddy.
I know the answer.
Good. Tell me.
Well, I mean, first of all, It probably was done through USAID money, right? USAID, who the hell knows?
Right.
But first of all, the guy's got billions of dollars. Secondly, he wants political reach. So it allowed, and the average age of, radio and TV is not a secret. I even just looked it up at 70 years old. Okay. So that's the audience they want to reach. That's not really looking at Rumble. If you want to know why, when you talk to people, they say, I don't know what Rumble is. It's because primarily it's not the younger generation. It's the older crowd. They're also the ones that are voting, and he wants to have influence over them. It's common sense. I mean, even if he's probably buying them at a steal, number one. And number two, as they diminish, he just takes a write-off from all his other stuff. So it's pretty easy.
Leo, as radio goes, it's been interesting to watch people tune out and tune away and get their information and so on from other sources. You get everything on your phone now. You don't have to rely on a radio station to tell you what the weather's going to be like or what concert's coming up this weekend. But the one the one format that is still doing all right and making money, well, actually there's two. One is Christian music. Okay, three, country music, and political talk, especially conservative political talk, which is dominating mostly AM signals, because we will still listen to AM because we don't care about the quality of the sound. You're not playing music. You're not rolling out some ELO. It's just voice. So it's still working. But they have tried to take that away more than once now. And big corporate is in on it by taking, the manufacturers of vehicles, trying to take AM radio out of cars. And I was like, why? Why would they do that? Why would something that's licensed with the Federal Communications Commission be so easily to just leave out of your vehicle? What would be the goal of that, Leo? You're on the radio.
Well, control, of course. They want to limit your options. If you don't have the ability to go to AM, which is where a lot of news goes out of on the radio, and people might not be in a situation where they have cell service or internet connection to get their podcast, or maybe they didn't download their podcast to listen to on their journey. So it definitely limits people's ability to get information.
And Sam, we've talked a lot about the last dying gasp of mainstream media, but yet there's still at least half the population that will continue to think that they're getting their information from those sources. Lester Holt, after a decade, is stepping down to the NBC Nightly News, I just read. But they're going to cling to that for dear life. And even though they're getting less money than they ever were before, they're not going to give that up, are they, Sam?
Oh, I mean, they're not going to give it up, Charlie, but we've had this conversation before. It's all but over. I mean, they're stage 4 cancer is what they have right now. And first of all, half the country does not watch mainstream media. Most of the country is getting their news, alternative news, which is with the podcasters, and maybe Leo, somebody that likes Leo is listening to him, or somebody that likes you is listening to you. So as the older generation dies off, nobody's following up behind. So I'm sorry, the 50% number isn't even remotely close. Secondly, you saw the county map of the United States, red and blue, and 87 point something percent went to Trump, or 86 point something percent. It was like 13% difference between, so basically 87% of the country voted red, 87%. And of the, 11 swing states, not swing states, but blue states, they allowed for illegals to vote. They didn't track you could have voted 27 times. It didn't really matter. So it's probably more like 92-8 is really the reality. And nobody really buys their BS anymore. I mean, look at Joy Reid. She just got kicked off the air. I mean, I felt horrible for her. Sarcasm, in case you didn't know. But even the left knows there's consequences to your actions, but they definitely will hold on for as long as they can. But the only thing keeping them afloat right now is the pharmaceutical money. And if that gets pulled, and it's an if, I know that RFK Jr. said that that's one of the things he wants to do, because
I pray he's successful.
Dude, I'm telling you, within 30 days from the time that money doesn't come in, they're in the freaking red. It's from there, then it's just where can we pull money to keep this stuff going? But at the end of the day, it's gone. It's not even going to survive. It's unless it's going to be funded by the government, which I don't see Trump doing that.
No.
And they pulled it all from USAID, all the money that was being sent to all these journalists. And by the way, did you see the Reuters money? Did you see how that was tagged? Did you see what it said? It says
No.
mass social disinformation. So the $9 million they received was, and I quote, mass social disinformation. They didn't say what country because they're broad in scope, but that's what they gave them the money for. They didn't even hide it. They didn't even say to make sure the public knows the truth of mass social disinformation. So this is a massive mess. And I always said the last time, when Trump got elected, he didn't drain the swamp. The swamp drained him. He's draining them now. This is, you take all the money away, and what do you got? There's no reason to be a politician anymore. If I can't make 175 grand a year and watch my net worth grow by 7 to 10 million a year, I'm out. So
that's what's happening. They're fleeing out of DC. The median home price has gone down $139,000.
Really?
Yeah, in DC alone.
That's my first time hearing that. Obviously, Sam's as well. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of new homes have gotten on the market because people are getting out, and they're also looking up for keywords like Swiss bank account, IBAN number. Yeah, those are the top Google searches in the DC area right now.
Oh my God!
Look, I'm telling you, we just got the tip of the iceberg. This stuff hasn't come out. My neighbors next door to me, I see them all the time, and they voted for Kamala not because they're Democrats, but because they list their 82. They don't have Rumble. They have flip phones, for God's sake. I can't even text them, and they have no idea what the truth is. And they've been listening for 60 years to MSNBC, ABC, CNN, that they think Trump is just, he's just a Nazi German. He's like Hitler, right? So I'm over there telling them, I'm just going to let you know, but you're not going to have any Social Security soon because Elon's going to take everybody's money. So take that to the bank. They have no idea what's happening. I know. I love screwing with people like that. If they want to believe it, tell it to them and say, look, I have it on good authority that it's all gone. It's nothing. Yes,
God.
I go to stupidnews.com and I read all that stuff. You probably were on that website.
Leo, Larry Elder had to step away from his very lucrative radio career with the Salem radio network. And I used to listen to him. I thought he was fantastic. And I don't know if he's ever recovered those kind of ratings that he had since he's come back. But he was forced to step down from his talk radio show because he was running for office. When he was running during the recall election of Governor Hairdo, they made him give up his radio show to be able to run for governor. Would they do the same to you? And what's the legalities of that now? And what difference does it make? Why would the FCC be so hell-bent against somebody running for office who actually has a radio show?
Well, because they have a voice. When it comes to election laws, I honestly, if that's what the rules are, then so be it. But if I had to, I would, because objective number one, mission prime for me is win the election in California, become the next governor, and bring all these solutions that I have to the state. So if that's the sacrifice I have to make, so be it. That's fine, because I'll still be able to put my voice out there as a candidate. Sure, I might not have the show. I'll find a different way to do it, and it'll be what it is. But we'll keep moving forward if that's the case. It'll be a speed bump, not a road
Share
bump.
with us some of the things that you've seen, because this is not the first time you ran once before. Share with us some of the ways that the media has absolutely shown their true colors to you and your campaign.
Sure. Well, I mean, with social media and stuff like that, shadow banning has always been an issue. That's a hard one to overcome with the algorithms that they put in place. The media is always going to, especially left-wing media, they're going to try and paint you into a corner, and they'll ask you questions that are sort of leading in a way to get you to say, words or little kind of gotcha moments that you always have to be careful of. But the way that they edit the interviews that you'll do with them in a way to make you sound like this horrible person that's going to take away rights or freedoms or make you some sort of homophobe or racist or whatever, they will just chop and screw your interview to their liking. And they won't give any real context in some of the quotes that they use. And obviously their favorite thing to do is just have like a really, like clickbaity headline with something out there. And most people don't really read the articles. They'll just see that really clickbaity thing.
They just do the headline. And newspapers learned that a long time ago. You can say the story within the headline and the first paragraph, because most people will not read beyond that. And especially if the story's continued on a different page, forget it. They're not
And I just wanted to add for TV stuff, like if they're a left-wing leaning station, they are definitely not interested in having a Republican voice on there. So they will just choose not to have you.
Sam, why would they do that when that is truly where the money is? We'll support that if somebody actually tells us the truth like that. Thus the growth of platforms like Rumble. Why would the left-leaning and left-owned and dominated media outlets shoot themselves in the foot by turning down money that they could have just by actually being an honest platform? Why would they do that?
It kind of blows your mind that they would actually do something like that.
And they are.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, I watched it. It might have been a little old, but it was with James O'Keefe, and he had somebody. I don't think it was James. It was some girl that was talking to somebody from CNN, and the guy actually said, "Our objective is to make sure Donald Trump doesn't get elected. That's it. So we will do whatever it takes to do." I mean, I just was blown away that he was actually saying it. If it would have been me on the other side of the bar, I would have came over and took his head off. Okay, just because people like that shouldn't be allowed to exist, as far as I'm concerned, especially in the media. So my guess is they're actually getting paid a lot of money to do this. Remember, the industry itself consolidated. So back in the 80s, there was 400 or 500 independent news outlets. Today, there's 6. So all these people that own these things, do you really think they need money? The answer is no. If anything else, what they want is they want the politicians to be able to draft laws that bring them more money. And when you have no accountability with USAID or whatever else is going on, and you're able to be funneled money, I mean, George Soros, $260 million. Everybody thought George Soros was funding Snopes and George Soros was funding the Black Lives Matter. He wasn't. It was us. Go send it to him so he could fund them. I mean, it's all a joke. So, the reality is they had the printing press, the government, and these media people, okay, have all the power to be able to push the message. So as long as they were getting money from somewhere, they really don't care. Whoever's paying me, that's who I work for. Not only that, these media people don't just own that. They own other things, a lot of other industries. So it's you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Understand, that's where this is. Mm-hmm. So they don't really care as long as they stay rich. So
and in power.
And in power.
Yeah, I mean, and it's money laundering the whole way down. I mean, the money that USAID would go to one entity, which would then skim off the top and then pass on to another entity, which then skims off of that top. And they just keep moving it along. And all the way, people are just enriching themselves as they're doing these nefarious things.
Exactly. That's exactly. How do you think they get so rich? How does somebody that makes $170,000 a year worth?
Look at Pocahontas.
Exactly. Okay. She doesn't have a brain in her head.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden
really
she's richer than us.
Stupid.
Give me a break. So it's kind of disheartening that all this stuff has taken place. And to me, I mean, I think they should just, march in there with the military and escort everybody out and take them to Guantanamo Bay. That's where they all should be. I mean, this is this. Am I wrong?
Why spend the money on the gas?
See, and I love that. And this is why I wanted both of you together.
I like him. Okay, because I know where he's going with this. Bullets are cheap, right? They probably have an excess surplus. What the hell? Now, I have to say, I think that's a good idea. I really
Leo is very outspoken on his radio show, but there is let's talk about the Republican Party, especially Sam. I know you're in Florida. We're out here in California, and we have to deal with this collective group of rhinos, which I can't wait to get to the convention because I'm serious. I'm done. As Dan Bongino's shirt said, cutesy time is over. I'm going rhino hunting, and I'm going to be very, very vocal about it. I'm not going to shy away from telling them exactly what I think of them, especially with the election of a new chair coming up next month at the convention in Sacramento for the California Republican Party. But Leo, how many times and how many people have told you, yeah, you need to dial it down? Your rhetoric is just a little bit too, oh, I don't know. They'll call it harsh. I call it honest. Have you encountered that? I'm sure you have. Sure you have.
Yeah, but I'm just true to myself because there's no reason for us to, dance around things and play the games anymore. We've done that for too long, and that's how we wound up in the situation we're in without being directly forward about what's going on, who's involved, what the relationships are, and ignoring the criticism and just simply talking truth and showing facts. We're going to wind up in the same place that we are now, and all the effort is just like spinning your tires. So no, I've got no problem saying what it is. Like, there is a deep state, there is international banking
But they
cartel.
won't give you a platform. They won't give you a voice. They won't
Well,
invite you to speak at their convention. They won't. They won't support you financially. They won't support you in their little mailers they send out. They'll throw some rhino in there and
yeah.
completely cut your support in half. That's what they're doing here in the state of California. My own party.
Well, that's because it's been controlled by a group of people that are in it for the money. They're there to help the consulting class. Their friends are all in consulting, and they're all there to enrich themselves. I mean, there's
Exactly.
the
We
thing
have
that
to
really.
bypass them.
Well, yeah,
I
and the
think
thing,
we have to bypass them. You're doing it one way is good with the radio, but what are some other ways, Sam? How can we work together synergistically and lift each other up and bypass these clowns?
So I've been saying it for years. The legacy media is going to be gone, and everybody knows it now. I was saying it 20 years ago. Nobody believed me. They said I was nuts. Now nobody doesn't believe me. They're actually going, they still printing that paper, right? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, Leo. The mainstream media is not going to help you. You already know this, right? They're not here to help. So they'll come in and they'll pretend like you're their friend. Then what they'll do is they'll tape something and then they'll edit it out and they'll make you look like an idiot.
right.
And that's what's going to happen. So what you need to do is bypass mainstream media and get your message out to the people direct from you. I do know how to do that, by the way. And so you need it to come from a news outlet, because ultimately, when you understand what I do, mark my words, 100% guarantee will replace the legacy media. What I do, it's either going to be me or somebody else, and there is nobody else. So what I need to do is corner the market with all these content creators that are out of work. And there's a couple million of them across the globe. But that being said, you need to put out the message direct from the horse's mouth, bypass them, and push this out on your own social media pages, because those are the people interested in you anyway. Anybody that's voting Democrat is never going to want to hear what you have to say, ever. All six of them.
Right?
Well,
Exactly.
we do just have to keep pushing forward, and I think that with alternative media and having shows like yours, Charlie, all these things help. It's the slow drip of information
Mm-hmm.
that's eventually going to come through and wake people up. I mean, I've had friends that were totally dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, and then certain events take place, and you just have been dripping that information. You're like, well, on whatever the subject may be, and eventually something happens, and they're like, hey, I remember you were telling me about that thing. Can you tell me about it again? And then you go into detail for the 10,000th time, but then they're like, oh, and then they start to wake up or they start to get it. But you have to constantly keep that drip of information and truth coming at people everywhere you go, whoever you meet.
We got a solid bench of conservatives in California, believe it or not. And the names I'm hearing thrown out there who are going to be running in 26 for governor of California as Governor Hairdo terms out. Thank you, Lord. Are impressive. There's some really good, and you're one of them. There's a couple of Leos, you and Leo Naranjo. There's Anthony Tremino. I don't know if he's officially announced, but there's Rick Grinnell, which everybody's talking about. There's, but he'll only run if Kamala Harris runs.
Yeah, I would argue that we don't have a deep bench actually in California. You got to really look into who these people are, what their backgrounds are, what they've done. You'd be surprised at how many of them aren't really Republicans and aren't really qualified for the job. So I'd argue I am really the only good choice.
Well, what I love about you is you are exactly what we need. I've said this for so long. I don't want politicians running my state or my nation anymore. I want business people running it. That's what you are. That's where you come from. You're not a lifelong politician. Why you're doing this, I don't know, but I think it's fantastic. What are some of the arguments you've had thrown at you about why you shouldn't even be doing this or trying to get into it?
I mean, usually people say, "Oh, they just assume I'm too young or haven't done anything," and then, if they just give me 5 minutes of to explain, my background, what I've done with my life, and uh, my ag background, my business background, time being a board member for the California Poultry Federation for a
Perfect for
decade.
California, which is still an ag state, whether the left likes it or not.
The
It really is.
largest ag county in the country is in California,
Yeah.
and
We're
the
feeding
third
the
largest.
world. Yeah.
So we have a lot of ag here. I mean, we're the breadbasket of the world for so many things. I mean, we outproduce the world in almonds, avocados, artichokes, and strawberries. We lead the nation in over 30 different items like beef, dairy, wine, more oranges than Florida. Sorry, Sam. More peaches than Georgia. I mean, the list goes on and on. But I've spent my life around that. I know what it takes to be in business. My family's been in, we've had restaurants, we own commercial real estate. So I have a lot of insight into a lot of different facets of the business world here in California and all the issues that come up that we have to deal with. The problem is overregulation. And yeah, people see a young face with me, and that's okay. But I've done quite a bit considering, and it wasn't just
You
given
absolutely
to me.
have.
I had to earn all these positions.
And if you've never had the opportunity to actually hear Leo speak and tell you about himself, I want to give you the opportunity to do that, Leo. Give people the elevator pitch of why you're the man to be leading the fifth, sixth largest economy in the world, state of California. But so be thinking about that. But Sam, let's stress the importance of the platform like what you have, yournews.com. The importance of it and actually investing in that, because unlike Leo on the radio and me on the radio for many, many years, you're already preaching to the choir. You're really not reaching new people. And how do you reach other people who might be swayed, but still not throw massive amounts of money in an advertising campaign at radio and television and newspaper?
Well, I mean, Trump proved it. You didn't need mainstream media to win an election. He did it all off social media. I mean, that's how he really won the election the first time, obviously the third time. I mean, he gets TV for free because he's so controversial. They want to have him on for the draw. But at the end of the day, it was all done through social media. It was basically giving him, it was him, it was allowing him to put his message out and to bypass everybody else. That was the most important piece. And, that whole industry is imploding. I don't need to tell you guys. I mean, you guys see it happening. CNN laid off another 200, right? And that was a couple of weeks ago. It's not like it's going to get any better. And so, I'm not looking to plug what I do. What I'm going to tell you is what's going to happen in that industry is it's creating a void, right? Just like when YouTube kicked off all the podcasters, which, as I always explain, I mean, there's over 100 million people that have podcasts on YouTube, and basically they just shook a few fleas off, right? Well, all of a sudden there was a void that needed to be filled, and Rumble filled that void. And Rumble's got a $3 to $4 billion market cap right now with stuff YouTube didn't even want. It didn't even dent their checkbook, or their market cap didn't even decline from it. Okay, so ultimately there are roughly 500,000 people on LinkedIn in the United States that call themselves freelance journalists. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that I don't have a job is what that means. And most of them are part of the downsizing of the legacy media. There's 200,000 student journalists. These are people that have a passion for journalism that are on LinkedIn that identify as a student journalist. Across the globe, there's over 2 million people that have lost their jobs that are now freelance all over the world. Matter of fact, I just picked up a woman, a journalist from Beirut. Okay, from Beirut.
Wow.
I'm like, so look, her stuff's going to be world news, right? I mean, that's what she's going to cover. But we're in the last 8 weeks, I picked up 250 news reporters. Okay. And
The
so
best part about what you're doing, though, and why it's beneficial for somebody like Leo, why would he throw money at an online news platform that's going to be blanketing the nation and even the world? That's a lot of money he has to throw out there just to reach a select group in a part of the nation on the West Coast. But you do that. You can do that. That's what your news does. You can hyper localize stories and to where I, as a consumer, can go to yournews.com, type in my zip code, and literally just get stories and information from my area.
yeah, so
That
Leo,
is how you control costs when it comes to advertising on social media.
exactly. I'm like USA Today with the local paper wrapped up in every city in the United States. Okay,
Yeah.
so I could publish content to a city, a county, a market, state, regional, or national. So like you running for governor is politics news for the state of California. But if Charlie here is running for the mayor of San Diego, well, that's just San Diego County news, politics. And if somebody's running for, well, we'll do something like a city council. Well, that's just going to be for that specific city. If it's Anaheim, it'll just be politics for Anaheim. So we're a news content distribution platform with mega scale. We're basically what I am as an aggregator. We're bringing all the country's information under one umbrella and creating one uniform media. But that's what every freaking news outlet in the world is. I just have massive scale. So the plan here is to not only do the United States, but take it globally. Okay. And because for me to open up the UK is just a zip code table for each country. And bam, they're open. If I want France, I open France with a zip code table. It's all free. And the infrastructure is already in place. But then our product empowers the people. It basically puts the power of the press back in the hands of the people. So for somebody like you, what we could do is distribute your message across the state. And by the way, Charlie, Leo's young. He's not stupid. He understands social media is powerful, right? He's got an audience of people that are following him, that trust him. And that needs to be done on all platforms. But then what happens is when you get a story about you that gets published, you then can disseminate it to the people who want to see this stuff. And all of a sudden you're in the news. Screw the mainstream media. Just ignore them, bypass them. You don't need them anymore. It's like Silicon Valley. I don't need them. Okay, because I'm doing it a different route for capital raising. So the beauty of the internet is these people are becoming obsolete. Why do you think, all these people in mainstream media? Did you see the Axios guy a couple months ago where he was screaming at the top of his lungs? He was at some reporter convention, and he was saying, we do all the hard work, the people need us. And I'm like, and I just wished I was at that meeting, because I would have jumped up there and said, you people are worthless. You're not doing anything hard. And by the way, anybody can do what you do. Okay. Just like anybody can have their own show, just like Joe Rogan. And not for nothing, Fox, CNN, ABC, NBC, MSNBC. You realize Joe Rogan's bigger than all of them combined on one show.
Yep.
And there you go. So all of a sudden, he's got a bigger audience than them. How is that even possible? That's called the World Wide Web, WWW. So the cream's going to rise to the top for you, Leo. You need press coverage. You need to speak right from, here's who I am. Here's what I'm going to do for you. But with technology today, you can create your own press and you could bypass everybody else. There's no need for them. They're not here to help.
No, they're not. But that's why we have to, like you said, create our own. And that's what I've been saying is you have to just keep pushing forward no matter what, because they're always going to try and silence you. And as long as you can just keep chugging along and chopping wood, as my grandfather would say, people will start to hear it. People will start to see it. They will start to share it. But when you have great sources like yournews.com, that can really help get people's word out there, and having a platform like that, I think is tremendous. So thank you for making that a possibility and setting that up, Sam.
Listen, first of all, you're running for governor. So your ass has to be funded really well to do this. Okay. Because you need PR people, right? Mm-hmm. You need people producing content. Every single thing that Gavin Newsom screws up with, news should be coming out about that and distributed to all social media. But it should, oh my God, this is easy, Leo, because most people running for political office, for a district or whatever it is, they're very undercapitalized. They don't have any money. You're running for governor. You better have a lot of money. And so now what happens is you have a staff, and that staff is now pushing information out. So all the stuff that Trump does, like opening up the floodgates to fill the reservoirs, okay, because Gavin Newsom wouldn't do this because of a fish that doesn't exist, right? I wanted to do one of those. I don't even do them, but I wanted to do one of those, what do they call them? TikTok things where you go, Gavin, and have a little stick like I'm cooking a little fish. Here's the last mackerel. As I eat it,
Here's the final smelt.
There's no smelt. This is the last one. I caught him. Oh, he's delicious. Okay, now
It's
you can
delicious. A little small, but delicious.
Always the last one is good. So all that stuff needs to come out about it. You could even do a third party through.
And that's another benefit you have there, Leo, because coming from farming and ranching background, first of all, you know what it's like to work hard. Secondly, the smelt that the Delta smelt in the deltas of California waterways is not even native.
No.
And I know you have friends who had farms and ranches along that I-5 corridor who had their water cut off and literally lost everything, didn't they?
Well, they've been put in situations where they're not allowed to have water in the capacity that they need it. Right now, they're limited to 1.65 cubic feet per acre. And for citrus, you need 2.25 cubic feet per acre just to sustain them. Almonds are 4.5 cubic feet per acre. And so when you're limiting people like that, they have to downsize their operation, and you're dealing with living things, whether it's animals or plants, they're still very much alive and they need that water to stay alive. So if you're not at the point where you have enough water to sustain them, you have to then cut back on the crops that you're producing to then provide for the ones that remain. So now you have less food being produced.
Awful.
Which means you have less things to sell, which means you have less money coming in. Even though it might cause a shortage in food and the price will go up a little bit, it won't go up in the amounts that it's needed to cover those costs. And even then, all it does is it makes food more expensive for more people. I mean, look at eggs right now. I mean, if you go to the supermarket, it's like what, $13-14 for a carton of eggs? I mean, depending on where you shop. I mean,
insane.
It's crazy. But
we need Zachy Farms back.
Yeah, you do. But we got to get rid of the regulations. We got to get rid of the ridiculously high taxes and the arbitrary environmental rules that inhibit our ability to be producers here in the state of California, because we're still competing on a national and a global scale. We are the world's now 6th largest economy. We were the 5th, could have swung into the 4th if we did things right. But
the dangerous thing to me, Leo, the real dangerous thing to me is the fact that they're doing irreparable harm to my state. Governor Hairdo has dismantled 4 dams.
Yeah, on the Klamath River.
That cannot be with the. I mean, look what they've tried to do, just building a high-speed train. That's not going to happen again. We just don't have the money to be able to replace those. They were incredibly beneficial, but it was all allegedly to make the Native American population up in those counties happy, because they were like, "Oh, we want our river back pristine,"
and bring the salmon runs and all that. I mean, it was ridiculous that the hydropower generation that we got from that is gone. The water storage that comes from that is gone. But those rivers it's not like, oh, you take the dams out and all of a sudden the salmon are going to return. No, it doesn't work that way.
No. And they have to be born there and then they return. That's inherently placed, that's the way the Lord created them. So you can't go, okay, the dams are gone now, salmon, get back up there again. This is insane what's happening, and we can't come back from it. It's got to end. Mm-hmm. I'm all for this new recall that's come out of Governor Hairdo. People are going, oh, he only has 2 years left. Why even put this kind of time, money, and effort into recalling him? Why? Look at the damage that he's going to be able to do if we can't get him out of there. Something's got to happen right now. And if that is successful, and I had Randy Economy on just last week, he was fantastic.
Oh, I know Randy.
He's the one spearheading that whole thing. He is. And I love why he's doing it. And there's no money in it. He's not getting anything from it. He just sees one more chance to try and veer us off that course of flying off a cliff, which is where we seem to be headed. I don't see a lot of light at the end of the tunnel, Leo. I don't know if we're ever going to have another Republican governor again, unless my own party steps up and starts doing things right. But they seem to be hell bent on taking us down too. It's so frustrating. I
Yeah.
get it why friends of mine are leaving. They're leaving the state. And they're being replaced by 2-3 million illegals who, Governor Hairdo was just bragging about the other day. Oh, the population's gone up 2 million. Nobody in the media goes, where did they come from, Gavin?
Yeah.
Where did they come from? Why? How come suddenly we have 2 million new residents of California here? Nobody asked those questions, and they won't. Nobody asked the questions about the dam. In fact, they didn't even really cover the dams being dismantled because that was just so over the top stupid. So again, the media is carrying their water. What do we do to try and get around that? Leo, do you have any plans? What are you doing? I mean, you do your radio show every day. It's got to be frustrating sometimes because you're spinning your wheels trying to get traction, but the media is definitely not going to help. This is what I wanted to have the discussion about. I think we've covered some really good stuff. Anything that you want to add, Leo? And I also want to hear your elevator pitch. Why I should vote for you for governor. But if Hairdo is recalled, would you jump in there?
Well, of course I have to. I mean, the problem is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they changed the rules on recalls in the state of California.
Oh, they did after the first attempt. Almost
Right.
was successful,
So if he's recalled, I think it just replaces him with the lieutenant governor, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the new rule. So all you would do is then make Eleni Koulianakis the governor of California. She is currently the Democrats' most likely one that they're gonna prop up for that race. And then it would just, if she gets in, then the Democrats will say, oh, well, she hasn't had enough time to prove herself. Let's vote her in again. So, or let's just vote her in, instead of recalling Gavin Newsom. So I think that we need to take a good long look at what the rules and how the parameters for this election will be, because I don't know if I could be a candidate, because I don't think there would be a candidate this time around. So
interesting. Okay. Thank you for that.
I think so. That's something to consider. I mean, if it's open for candidates, then that would be a part of it. But I think they changed the rules on that this last time around. It just didn't take effect until after he survived that recall. But
Sam, have you heard Leo speak before? You've never even met him until today.
No, and I was supposed to be at CPAC, and somebody came here to say, I wasn't there, and I had tickets, and everything. I just didn't go because I had somebody that was flying in to see me. So I wasn't able to do it, but I wish I would have been there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I like to go to anyway.
I want you two to talk because Leo sent me the link for his speech at CPAC. Okay. That needs to be on yournews.com, Leo.
So I do have a question for Leo, though.
Yeah.
So it's my opinion, and pretty much everybody else, that these elections are all BS, right? I mean, when you allow illegals to vote, you control these machines, these voting machines, and these voting machines could just flip stuff. How do you beat a machine? How do you do that? I need to know the answer to that. I mean, because the only thing you can do is bring in your own machines. I don't know what to say to that.
Good question.
That's the one I want to know, because you could have 100% of the people vote for you, and then your voting numbers will end up becoming 200% illegals voting to. All of a sudden you lost. So how do you beat that?
Well, I think Trump telling Gavin Newsom, because the state needs money to help rebuild after the wildfires that occurred here in LA. And so, in one hand, he's like taking our money to try and sue Trump. And then on the other hand, he's begging Trump for money. And Trump said, we're not going to give you any federal money if you don't, there's a couple of deal breakers. Like if you don't do things like voter ID and have that as an important part of being able to get that money. And I think that's going to be a big help, because the state is broke, like really, really broke. We are over $3.2 trillion in debt, We are hemorrhaging cash every year, borrowing from next year's budget, borrowing from next year's projected excise tax, which is what we pay at the pump, which is why our gas is so damn expensive. So those are going to be
Don't
important.
gloss over that, by the way. Don't gloss over that. People are thinking, oh, it's because they went ahead and put the carb tax and the 65 cents per gallon for the California Air Resources Board crap. No, they have not done that. That hasn't even happened. And we had a chance to rescind that outrageous ability for them to be able to raise fuel tax and registration on our vehicles at will. No, nothing has to be approved. Nothing has to go through a committee. Nothing has to be voted on. They just do it now. We had a chance to rescind that with Prop 6. What happened with Prop 6 back in, what was that, 2018, Leo? Do you remember?
No, because I was really focused on trying to keep my business afloat at that time. That's that we were just getting killed by the regulations here in California. Definitely CARB was making things difficult. We had our own fleet of trucks. We had to give them up because of just the arbitrary rules and the costs that were being passed to us. And I mean, we were really struggling here, and unfortunately we couldn't make a go of it. So we were winding down our business that time.
Leo, doesn't it seem, none of the stuff these people do makes any logical sense.
Well,
looking at it from a common sense standpoint, but if you're looking at it from their perspective, and their perspective is, we want all of you gone, and we want to own your property. We want to make those property values 10 cents on the dollar. Okay. And we want to bring all illegals in that we can control, and they'll be grateful for us to rule them. Well, it makes a lot of sense what they're doing.
Yeah. You'll own nothing and be happy.
Exactly. And so to me, that's exactly what they're trying to pull off. I mean, carry the one. It just makes logical sense. Everything you just told me about the regulations, whether it was your truck or whether it's water, where you can only have so much. Well, that's not enough to create the plant, to grow the plant big enough to be able to sell. Oh, perfect. Okay. Makes sense to me. So obviously they're trying to get rid of everybody. And by the way,
trying to get rid of the middle class.
Well, yeah, it's control, because exactly, Charlie, they are exactly trying to get rid of the middle class. So right now, if we have a middle class, which allows folks to say, no, I don't need to be dependent on the ruling elite. So if they can eliminate the middle class, then all you have is the ruling elite up here and everybody else down here. And then everybody else down below is wholly dependent and beholden to everybody up here, because it all comes from up top. But right. That's why the middle class is so important. And Trump was doing everything in his power to enable the middle class. That's why it grew by 11% under his presidency in the first term. And that's why they hated him, because it was giving people their financial independence and their freedom to create for themselves and not be dependent on a government and a handout from them.
We got to have that here in California, because if California goes, as California goes,
so the
nation. The rest of the nation. It really, truly does.
No,
if we financially collapse, you don't think so, Sam?
No, I can guarantee you guys are going to financially collapse. It's coming. These people are not going to give up power, and they need to collapse that thing. So people go, what the hell? And even the poor go, well, you're not giving me anything. This is not anything against you, Leo. You're talking about people in power that control all these voting machines. So I'm all for common sense. Mm-hmm. But when you have people that don't care, and they'll destroy something in order to make sure they're going to keep it, they will, and that's the issue. So you're in a pickle. Well,
they're evil. I mean, it takes a truly evil man to destroy their own nation just to rule over the ashes.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what. Yeah, and that's what they're willing to do. I mean, they're happy to be the king of the desert so long as they're the king. But things have gotten so bad here in California that everything, the foundational issues, all the problems that we have, whether it's the drought or the homelessness or the crime or the education or the corruption or the cost of living, traffic, on and on and on, all these issues, they are nonpartisan problems that impact everybody. And that's exactly what I talk on, because I'm running as a Republican, but I'm not going to be the Republican governor for the Republicans of California. I'm going to be the governor for the people of California. This isn't about social issues right now. This isn't about left or right. This isn't about Democrat, Republican. It's about right versus wrong, quality of life versus struggling. And that's what that's what my whole mission is. And I've developed solutions for a lot of these issues at drought and homelessness and wildfires and education and crime and how to bring more revenue into the state that's not wholly dependent on tax dollars. Because right now, the only means of income for the state is taxation. We can do it with water. We can use our homeless population to get to do a lot of the building by giving them a job skill, getting them off the street, not just housing them, but giving them medical treatment and rehab treatment, and then giving them a job skill and having them earn money doing that, and then giving them the ability to get hired coming into the workforce after that by incentivizing businesses to do so. Opening up the oil in California. We have so much oil. We can bring in over 100,000 jobs and $80 billion a year in revenue just from the oil alone. And then by being able to have all the reservoirs and becoming drought resistant, we can then sell off portions of our allocated portion of the Colorado rivershed, because we get the lion's share of it, and then use that as a way to then bring in additional revenue into the state. Stop taking care of prisoners at the dollar that we're spending on them. We have 200,000 inmates in the state of California. We spend $10 billion a year taking care of them. That's 5% of the budget on 0.5% of the population, which is the worst portion of the population. There are so many things that we can do, but we have to also incentivize trade schools, get people back into doing the trades. Every year, for every 5 tradesmen that leave the workforce, 2 enter it. And that's why we're seeing all these difficulties here. I want to make California a place where folks can have the option to go and get a vocational skill, put things like shop class back into schools. There are so many things that need to
civics.
Take place.
How about civics?
Of course, civics first and foremost, because if you don't know how the government works, you're going to wind up in this position, because that's the whole thing. It's essentially the blind leading the blind. Well, it's the corrupt, evil people that are leading the blind that don't ask the questions because they're told don't talk about religion and don't talk about politics, which is why I love your show, Charlie.
Thanks, Leo.
I agree with you. You know, the issue you're facing is those evil people have a lot of power. And I'm not knocking anything. I'm saying you're absolutely correct. It needs to be done, and it needs to be done relatively quickly. Here in Florida, the governor just last week said that there's no reason why the state needs a part of the house, like we pay in my county almost 2%, 1.9, I think it is for for a home. And the state takes almost 50% of that. Well, I think they're going to be eliminating that. So it's going to get cut in half. He's like, it should be for local stuff, right? That's what it should be for. You guys are taxing the living hell out of everybody. All they're doing is at this stage of the game, it's a domino effect, because you're trying to rob from Peter to pay Paul, but eventually people are going to run out of money. And the whole house of cards is going to collapse. There was a movie I watched a long time ago that started out Escape from New York and then Escape from LA, where they had to wall off Los Angeles or whatever it is. I mean, until you take the power away from these people, they're going to continue to destroy it, and then they're just going to leave when there's nothing left to govern. So
you just got to show the people a way out, and that's what I've done by developing these detailed solutions. And I'm not here to talk about social issues. I mean, the big thing because Californians definitely are emotional, and certainly the Democrats, and I understand that, and they want to be fair and kind to folks. Like, I'm not here to take away what's already in place. The laws, whether they're for gay marriage or for abortion, they're already established in the state's constitution. I'm not here to reverse those things. However, if the people can get together and vote and say, this is what we want to do, we want to get a ballot initiative together and go get the signatures and then vote on it, I'm happy to put it into law in that case. But this isn't about social issues. That's why here's how we're going to get out of the issues that we're in. This is the problem. Here's the solution. And here's how it's going to make the quality of your life better. And it's going to make your life more affordable. It's all complementary.
Well, I'm cheering for you. I really am, because you guys really need to fix that problem. The problem, it needs to be eliminated. And I don't mean in an aggressive way. I mean, he needs to be gone so that people that have common sense could get in there and do it. The good news is he's really eliminating himself, because even if he were to cheat and win the election again or whatever,
he's termed out. He's going to run.
He's termed out.
He's going to run for president in 2028. That's what he's doing right now. He's posturing for president.
So what is he going to do? Say, I destroyed California. Imagine what I could do with the whole country.
But that's not how it will be presented by the media.
Because the whole thing we were talking about, the media is going to spin it. This whole thing with the dams on the Klamath River.
When is he running? 2028 in 3 years? I'd be shocked if they were even still around.
I mean,
mainstream media.
Yeah,
It
right.
ain't lasting that long.
I
Well,
hope you're right, but
I'm never
let's
wrong,
address
Charlie.
the reason why I brought up Prop 6 a little bit ago, and I didn't finish explaining why that failed. Because the majority of us, not just on the right, but on the left, were going, yeah, we recalled Gray Davis back in the early 2000s for doing the very same thing the Governor Hairdo has done, and that is raising fuel taxes so high and doubling and even tripling the cost to register your vehicle to drive it around in California. Now they're going to do a mileage tax thing. Insanity. This is going
It's
to
never
just
going to
kill
end. They
so
need
much.
money. They
It
need
won't end.
all
It
the
won't end. But we had a chance to repeal that with Prop 6. Javier Becerra changed the wording of it to make it sound like, well, if you vote yes on this, that's really a no vote, and vice versa. And
I hate that
we
stuff.
are so ignorant for the most part. And I was on the media at that time, working for a big company, huge company, and got severely reprimanded for talking about it and going, do you realize what's really happening here? Got in a lot of trouble for it. Uh, but I didn't quit, because I'm like, people have got to realize what they're doing, and they've changed the wording here in the voting pamphlet, and people are going to vote the wrong way. And sure enough, they did. We had a 70% majority going, yeah, I want to repeal this tax. It's ridiculous. We recalled Gray Davis over that. And now this clown's doing the same thing. Yeah, I can't wait to get at it. But yet only about 40% of those who claim to be Christian in the state of California ever even register to vote. And then they don't show up for primaries. They don't show up for midterms.
Yep.
We are not as conservative, especially on my side, a Christian conservative. We're not taking our responsibility seriously, and we're being railroaded because of it. That's why I wanted to talk with someone in the media, Sam Anthony, yournews.com, and Leo Zaki, running for governor of the most powerful, financially powerful state in the nation.
What
How
about
important how do we even talk to our own people and change minds and hearts when our own Republican Party seems to be dead set against
New
conservatives actually
California?
winning office?
No, and that's a good point, Charlie. Our CHGOP is not spending the money where it needs to spend the money. It needs to be educating the population, and it needs to be supporting every Republican candidate that makes it through the primary.
What about the new California?
That's never going to happen.
No? Okay.
You don't think so? There's no possibility of that?
I
Because
don't.
I
And
think it's an extraordinary idea. I was all for the state of Jefferson.
I don't believe. I don't believe that. I mean, not that you haven't had states get divided before, like they did it in the Carolinas, I believe. They did it in Kentucky and Tennessee,
West Virginia, North, South Dakota.
But it needs congressional approval on that. It's a really big step. And the other thing too is California is as amazing as it is and the economic powerhouse that it is, because all of those resources are together under one roof. The problem is the leadership. And I get it. People get fed up and they have this defeatist attitude and they say, screw it, just throw it all out. Let's start over. And that sometimes is an easy thing to do. But when you're talking about our state here of California, it's not that simple. You can't just, there are resources that are specified to certain parts of the state that you just can't replicate elsewhere. And then you lose out on all those great things that make us work the way we do. So I'm not for cutting up the state. I'm for just common sense and getting good leadership in there. But we, the people, have to take back our respective parties, and we have to keep pushing forward, because we're going to have a convention. There's going to be a vote. If you're able to cast a vote, I recommend learning about it, not just showing up and like, oh, I'm a delegate. I don't know anything about the internals of the party. Let me just know what's everybody else doing. Oh, that one. Then click. Actually be informed, become an informed voter at everything that you're going to be a part of, and don't take this job as a delegate lightly. It's not just a thing, an artsy fartsy thing to show up to. And I'm all hoity toity. Look at me. Actually show up and do your part.
2 million new voters came in, probably more than that. How do you compete with that? I mean, they register these people, and those people ain't showing up to go vote. They're just using their names and putting them.
Which was the whole idea with Jerry Brown's motor voter law and all that kind of crap. illegals can get legal driver's licenses. Yeah. What? Why? Wait a minute. Why are we doing this? And then next thing I know, and everybody who's got a driver's license, you're now registered to vote, or you can register to vote, except you illegals. Wink, wink.
Well, look, we're a little over a month into Trump's, presidency. Give it a little bit of time. They're working on it. You're gonna every day some crazy new thing is coming out of this administration, and it's an enlightening, crazy new thing, not like a crazy like Biden thing we were dealing with last time. I mean, like an exciting, revealing thing that's waking up the population more and more. Give it a little bit of time. The pieces are starting to fall into place with his cabinet and his administration. Give it a few more months.
Amen.
I agree. I mean, a lot's going to change based on all the findings they have, and it's just begun. So who knows what they're going to find in California? Who knows what's going to happen? Money being fun. I mean, right now you got Pam Bondi in there, and you got Kash Patel, and they're going to be following money, because all you have to do is look at all these politicians and see how much money they make and what their net worths are and how much they grew. It's mathematically impossible. Okay. And all they have to do is follow that money, and you'll see a lot of arrests. So I'm
hoping we see a lot of arrests, and I'm hoping we see trials, and I'm hoping we see severe and fair punishments that are actually carried out.
Because otherwise it will just keep happening. Somebody else will take up that mantle or take up that torch and run with it because it was successful, and the consequences were slap on the wrist. So what? You both are great. I appreciate you being on my show. Leo, tell us where we can find you, how we can support you, and learn more about you and why we should.
Thank you. Well, the best place to go is my website. That's leozaki.com, leozacky.com. Tons of information there. You can definitely help and donate. I would mean a lot. Oh, by the way, haven't told anybody this. I guess I'll drop it on your show before I get to do it on mine. I just got endorsed by the great Dr. Robert Malone. So things are definitely going up. You can also watch my show on americamatters.us. Click the link. It'll take you wherever you need to be. And then follow me at Leo S. Zaki on Instagram and X and all the other platforms. And you'll see all the content I post there. I think Instagram's the best, though.
americamatters.us, you said?
Correct.
Okay. I'll check that out. Sam?
Well, I'm kind of excited for Leo. I'm cheering for him here. I'd love to see somebody take over that state and fix it.
I'd love to be sitting down having some beers with you guys, because I know your conversations would be bam, 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 because you're both sarcastic son of a guns.
Well, I know he's ready. I know he's ready to drop the hammer on everybody, but I'll do anything I can do to help you, Leo. I mean, I have a pretty good idea on some of the stuff that would help you. It's certainly not the end all, but the bigger I get, the more power we're able to wield. I've got a lot of things that I'm working on right now. People are signing up to become journalists while we're actually doing this show. I'm getting submissions, right, for become a citizen journalist. So our whole business model, just FYI, Leo, is all news reporters, but many of them are, people that were part of the downsizing of the legacy media, or student journalists, or people that have never been in the news business that just want to become local news reporters, which is called citizen journalists. It's kind of like what James O'Keefe is doing. I mean, he's training investigative journalism stuff, but just on a much grander scale. So, my game plan is to, bring on a couple 100,000 news reporters over the next 24 months. And turn this into the largest media company in the world, which, by the way, you only need to hit 3,000, and you did that. So I'll blow through that this year.
Cool.
And because all of it's gone, and I'm just coming in behind them and replacing them. So, leveraging what I do, because I see this so clearly, the messaging that you could produce on our platform, and, you could do third-party stuff. So it's coming from a different source, but all of a sudden, now you're really back in the media. So I'm here to help you. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Sam. And I'll have you get in touch with Deanne. She's my manager. So I just sent you all that stuff in the private chat there. So
I see it. Yeah.
I forgot to open up the chat room. Well, there it is. Thank you, everybody. Yeah. I appreciate y'all so much, though. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. It's good. I hope it can be effective. Most importantly, not just getting information out there, but making sure it actually takes hold and has an effect, that's my goal always. So that is Leo Zaki running for governor of the state of California in 2026 election, and also Sam Anthony from yournews.com. And I'm Charlie Simons. You want to help this show stay on the air, could sure use your financial support. If I could get 20 people to give $20, that would be extraordinary. That would be such a help. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, on my little shoestring budget, and I'm a one man show here, except for my dog Spike. So if you can help, there's Spike. Sorry for disturbing you, pal. That's a spot right there. Whenever I'm doing shows, just know Spike is always right there. So that's Venmo.com. That little QR code there up in the corner. That's how you get to Venmo.com/DoNotTalk. Venmo.com/DoNotTalk. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America. But most importantly, America bless God.